There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
Welcome to the Program Guyz Positional Preview Podcast. I am your host on this mini-series edition of the Program Guyz Podcast, Mark Hall, joined with you today by Matthew Gann. He's a part of the Program Guyz. Ryan Hile, he is a program guy, if there's ever been one. We are here today to talk about the defensive back position, so I hope you are ready for a ton of names because we're going to talk about all of them. Before we get into all of that, a little bit of housekeeping. You absolutely need to be checking out the website, programguyz.com. That's where all of the content drops now. Yeah, we're still on YouTube. Yeah, we're still tweeting, but there's more from the guys. Go get after it, programguyz.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us everywhere there is. Program Guyz with a Z. That's how you're going to find us no matter where it is. Man, any other plugs? I know that you've already checked out the program roundup that Mark and Patrick debuted this weekend. So I don't even have to push that one because you're already on it. You're already on it if you're listening to this one by now. I think that's all that I got. Guys, how are we feeling today?
Happy to be here. Football season's upon us. OU starts playing in less than a week. What more can you want? Very soon. What more can you want?
It's here. We should all be excited. I love it. I hate week 0 because it's like it's so excited to have football back, but it's not OU football. So it feels like we have another week. But I got to watch something. It's like a little teaser. I like it, a little appetizer.
Well, and it was kind of like bad football in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, we got to watch football. It was cool, but hey, Navy can't do anything against Notre Dame, and Pac-12 Network is blacked out at my house. So what can I do? Very unfortunate. It was nice though. It was a little teaser for what's to come. So we got to talk defensive backs today. That's what we're here. We've convened to do. I think no matter how you start the discussion, 2022, 2023, what we're going to do is go position by position, corner then safety. And I'm going to look at the corners and safeties interchangeably because I feel like Brent Venables will do that as well. Starting with corner, 22 or 23, it doesn't matter. It's Woody Washington. That's the leader in the clubhouse. He's the undisputed veteran, elder statesman, and sort of tactician in that defensive backfield at this point. Sort of the only guy that goes in with a guaranteed role, I feel like, in the cornerback room. How nice is it knowing that opposite Woody Washington, there are no starts at Oklahoma. Kendall Dolby started at NEO, but no one else has started a college football game at OU. How nice is it to have Woody Washington on one side of the field, and then we can get into the rest of the guys? Matt, I want to start with you.
Redshirt senior coming in for his final year. What more could you want, especially with a position where last year really had the same issue that Woody was locking down one side of the field, but really couldn't find that second or third guy for the other side or for some of the other receivers for the games. And the Big 12 has produced a lot of Big 12 receivers, and there's going to be more, especially with the new teams coming in. So it feels good that we have a solidified in there, a guy that knows what he's doing, a guy that you don't really have to worry about too much. But I think it's going to be a little bit of the same this year. It's going to be a little bit of a carousel for Coach Jay Valai to really figure out who is going to be the second and third guy and possibly also play nickelback because you already know what you're getting in Woody Washington.
Ryan, thoughts on Woody solidifying one side of the field at least?
How could you be upset with it? I mean, he's got to be the go-to starter. I feel like he's always been a solid piece for us. We've always heard his name. Feels like he's been here forever, and that's because he has. I love it though. There's really no other right answer. You're absolutely correct. Woody's got to hold down his side of the field, and then we lost some pieces, and that's not a secret. We have to replace those pieces with a incredibly young room, but we'll see what happens. Woody is got to be the elder statesman, and moving forward, those young guys just watch him.
So some of those pieces that you mentioned are DJ Graham started last year at corner, started games at corner, and is now playing wide receiver for the Oklahoma Sooners. So that's a guy who's exited the room. Jaden Davis transferred after starting the season opener last season. So you can see sort of how the tides have turned on the guys who were already here. And CJ Colden had a very good set of games once he finally took hold of the position, but declared for the draft and unfortunately went undrafted in April, whenever it is. Really wish that CJ Colden had come back. It would have been nice to have a big guy like CJ in the room, but we don't. So what we have is a collection of, you guys mentioned it, freshman and sophomore young options that are going to be taking over. There's a spot in the outside corner position, and then there's a nickel position. And I think that it's instructive to look at those separately because you're looking at different players for each of the roles. Now, coming out of spring ball, coming out of the discussions, then that opposite corner spot was supposed to be Gentry Williams. That's everything that we had heard. And everything I hear right now is actually about freshman Josiah Wagner. So it's really cool to me to hear that a freshman is actually able to make a difference like that. Do you really trust a freshman coming out of spring ball, though? Not everyone is USC wide receiver Zachariah Branch.
Truthfully, quick answer, no. Should you trust a true freshman straight into the fire? No. Is he the one coming off with the most hype around him and coaches seem to talk about him the most? Yes. So, quick answer, no. You don't want to rely on a freshman going into the season, but at the same time, these things happen. Gentry Williams has not been a name we've heard much of, especially from camp as of late. And that's a weird one to me. I really thought he'd be a dude who steps in, but Wagner is beloved by coaching staff, and I know he's beloved by the media. Good on him. Good for him. Go jump in there, take the reins if you can. Love seeing it. Freshmen like that, you gotta love those guys.
Matt, you've in the past been a little, I'm just going to look at the three freshman corners, as a trio. In the past, you've been pretty high on Makari Seatbelt Vickers. Do you mind breaking down what he brings to the table and what he brings to the unit?
Yeah, a lot of hype when Vickers decided to commit to the University of Oklahoma. This is a big for the cornerback position because a lot of OU's hype was getting a lot of defensive line commitments or the transfers. So to get a guy like Makari, who's so highly recruited out of Florida, was obviously a huge win for this coaching staff. And to be honest, one of these freshmen is going to have to step up, whether it's Wagner, whether it's Vickers. This is a very young room besides Woody Washington, who seems like he might be 10 years older than who will be playing next to him or on the other side of the field. So I'm very high on Vickers. Again, I've heard a lot of Wagner in camp, but there is a difference between playing high school ball and making that leap to the collegiate level. Guys are faster, they're bigger, they're stronger. It's just a different type of game, especially when you play in the Big 12. That is a highly air raid offenses that you're going to see. You have to be on your game. A slight mistake and a guy can go 80 yards for a touchdown, right? It's just not high school ball anymore. I do believe Vickers can be that guy. Based on the hype and his 6'1", 200-pound frame, that's exactly what you want on the outside, facing against a lot of these Big 12 receivers. But one of these guys, Wagner, Vickers, has to step up. Hopefully both, but it's hard to know or just throw a freshman right into the water or right into the heat of things. One of the guys is going to have to step up and face some pressure.
I'm so glad that you mentioned the guys you did and didn't mention the other freshman out of Mustang, Oklahoma, Jacoby Johnson. Jacoby Johnson is 6'2", 192, and played a ton of receiver and offense in high school because if you have a national top 250 recruit on your team, you use that guy. You get him the ball every way that you can. He's specializing at corner at Oklahoma, and has ideal measurables, ideal speed. He was offered Power 5 basketball scholarships. Like, the guy has footwork for days. He's very talented. He ran track as well. He's someone who has the sort of prototypical body for a corner that I want on the outside. Someone who's a little taller than they used to make them, a little rangier, little longer, both with their legs and wingspan. Jacoby Johnson is exactly the kind of athlete that I'd love to see take a rollover, and he can be so physically dominant with that size, with that speed, with that strength. Maybe it does take him a season to get there. It's not like Mustang High School is playing the strongest competition in the world, but between the three of the freshmen, he's the one that I am most high on. I would love to see Josiah Wagner personally be working in the slot alongside Kendall Dolby. Let's let those guys get after each other in practice and see, because they're very similarly sized. Kendall Dolby is the junior transfer from NEO, and he runs 5'11", 184. He's going to play. And I'm thinking it's going to be in the nickel, and I would love to see that kind of competition between those guys. Any thoughts on Kendall Dolby, Matt?
Just 2 quick points to Jacoby Johnson, who played a lot of wide receiver at Mustang. I do like the transition when you know the wide receiver skill set, you know routes, you know those types of things. I think that just gives you a little bit of an added advantage when you're playing quarterback to anticipate a little bit better. Again, I think it's going to take him a little bit of time to transition from wide receiver to cornerback, but I think it's a little bit easier than what maybe DJ Graham's doing for going from cornerback to wide receiver. So I think it might be a little bit easier transition for him. But yeah, he is a freak of an athlete. Really glad he's coming to us and playing for our football team. The other point for Kendall Dolby, I believe he was the number 1 rated JUCO corner coming out of the transfer portal. I think that's a huge win. They wouldn't go after this guy if they didn't think he could play immediately. So I think he's going to fit in pretty nicely, whether that's nickelback inside, whatever it might be. But I think he's going to be another guy that's going to get a lot of playing time and make a huge impact with his skill set on the field. So she's probably going to see a lot of him and Woody Washington mixed in with the rotation of these young freshmen.
Ryan, what do you think?
I actually would prefer to see that. I want to see the older guys have their shot first, just because, again, I don't think you want to run into the season with freshmen, especially true freshmen coming out of high school, moving to Big 12 athletes. But I want to propose this thought, and I hope you'll follow me on this real fast. If we see some struggles out of that opposite of Woody Washington corner side, and we try the freshman, but there's some struggles, let's say come Iowa State, does DJ Graham make the switch back for Texas? Because Texas wide receivers are going to be a problem, especially for freshmen. I'm not expecting it. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think no, because the defenses will have built on what they're teaching since he switched, and they're not going to let him make that switch mid-season unless it comes to injuries. At that point, you'll see it, but I think they'd rather let the young guys take their lumps versus moving a guy who's trying to be an offensive player now. Matt, what do you think? Do you think that they, out short of injuries, do you think that maybe that's something we consider if the freshmen don't get it done?
Yeah, that's where my thoughts go, unless it's just injuries upon injuries. But I know we'll mention a couple more guys. The room is very crowded, so I think it would take quite a few injuries or people just not playing that well for this shift, but I don't see it.
I love that that's what y'all said, honestly, because no, we're getting ready for something bigger. Let the freshmen make their mistakes, let them learn from it. I agree with y'all 100%. I hope the fan base does too. They won't be super happy about it if things start going wrong, but these guys have the skill, they have the talent. I'm glad that we're all on the same page there.
Yeah, he had that all-time. Yeah, sorry, he had that all-time interception. That will go down in the history books against Nebraska, but time for him to move on. See if he can fit in the wide receiver room. Sorry,
you mean the interception that the fans were not happy about because he could have dropped it? He could have dropped it and we had the ball. I loved that.
It was like a fourth down. Yep.
Still pretty sick.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, what a highlight. Like, if you're a player, you still do that. We won the game. Like, we were winning by 1 billion.
I remember seeing him and his family at on Main Street after that, and everybody was hyped for him. No one was up in his face saying, "Hey, you should have dropped it." So,
Oh yeah,
hide
no
behind
one
the
says
screens.
stuff
It's
like that to someone's face. Yeah, exactly.
No. Yeah.
Exactly. So another corner that we haven't discussed too much, but I don't want him to get caught up in the shuffle, is redshirt sophomore Kanai Walker. He's 6'2", 202, which again is that kind of prototypical size that you want. But personally, I think the Louisville transfer is going to have trouble breaking through in a room full of guys recruited by the current corners coach, head coach, Ted Roof, defensive coordinator. I just don't see that one happening. Another one that I want to bring up is Jaden Rowe. He's 6'2", 224 and is a sophomore at corner. I don't understand why he's not like playing cheetah. And we'll hit on that in the cheetah pod, but he brings that kind of size speed combination that I want to see on the field in some way, shape, or form. He's got linebacker size. Are there any guys that stand out to you that we haven't hit on, and then we can circle back on anyone else at the end? Ryan?
I was actually going to bring up Jaden Rowe. I love seeing that size, but
great.
You immediately start being, is that too big? Is this the right spot for him? I'm hoping it's the case of, hey, that cheetah position is just too full of dudes who are, on paper better than you. We got to throw you somewhere else. That's a fun problem to have. But if he could play, I would love nothing more than a 220, 6'1" corner or nickel. Like, don't get me wrong, that sounds amazing. I'm here for it all day long. Is it realistic? Jaden Rowe, I'd love to see it.
I love to see it. Matt, anyone that stands out to you, or ready to move on to safeties, and we can circle back for anyone that we didn't hit on at the end?
No one else I can think of. Just quick point on Connie Walker. Obviously transferred in from Louisville last year, like you mentioned. Didn't really get a lot of playing time, even with the carousel players we went through. So if you figure if he just couldn't break through last year with all the movement, the pieces that they were trying, I just don't see it this year, like you mentioned, with all the freshmen and talent that is coming in to replace. So again, maybe injuries, always good to have depth. But again, if he couldn't do it last year, I don't see too much breaking out this year.
It's a great point. I second all of that. Moving on to the safety position. This was a spot last year that was just ravaged by injuries, particularly to Billy Bowman, who definitely took a step forward when he was able to play and when he was healthy. But we saw even post injury, it took a few weeks for him to get back into form. Feels like we didn't really see actualized Billy Bowman until the Cheez-It Bowl, which is pretty unfortunate for him and for the Sooners defense. Next to him last year was a lot of like Justin Broyles, who has moved on to a coaching position with the Sooners, and some Key Lawrence, who is still here. Guys, do you have any overarching thoughts on how things went last season at the safety position? What you recall and how you felt about who we were sending out? Matt, you're shaking your head. Yes. Give me your thoughts, King.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the defense was one of the worst rated defenses, not just in the Big 12, but nationally. Too many big plays, too many missed tackles by the safety positions. And really at times, I think really what stood out to me was really the first big game was in Fort Worth, in TCU, when guys just absolutely looked lost. People were getting wide open down the field. No one who knew their coverage or positioning. I think that was kind of the real apt moment. Like, okay, I don't think a lot of these guys know exactly what's going on back there. Now, give credit or not give credit, but, give some other part of the defense. If we got no pressure on the quarterback, which happened a lot last year, that's going to give a lot of these times to wide receivers to get open down the field. So not going to put all the blame on the safeties, but there was a lot of times, too many big plays, too many big opportunities for wide receivers to make catches down the field. And it's got to change this year because there's way too many mistakes last year.
Ryan,
if I may, I'm going to contradict what I said about the corners real fast. I don't want to see the older guys. I don't. I don't want to see the older guys. I don't want to see Justin Harrington. I don't want to see Key Lawrence because we've seen what they looked like last year. And when Billy Bowman wasn't there, I have the mic closer for this. When Billy Bowman wasn't there was zero confidence in those guys stopping anybody. And there were so many broken coverages. Matt, you're absolutely correct. It's so weird to say I don't want to see experienced guys. I'd rather see the young guys. But when Billy Bowman is not there, it looked bad. It looked bad. And we're questioning, is Harrington going to put it together this year? Is Key Lawrence going to do this thing? I'm sorry. The dogs are at the door, and it's younger guys. And I got no problem saying that, man, I'd rather see them alongside Billy Bowman, because it's going to be Billy Bowman and somebody. I'm sorry, older dudes, but dogs are at the door, young guys with talent sitting right there. I'd rather be there. So I'm contradicting myself a little bit there. I know that's weird, but that's just where I stand.
Different position groups. I don't think it's a contradiction at all necessarily. I'll let us use that to transition into 2023 and who some of those younger guys might be. We obviously can count on Billy Bowman and hope for ascension from him. He's got everything you want in a player. I think some of his coverage skills could be a little more refined. I think spending another offseason in the system is going to get him a little bit better with some of that stuff, but you couldn't ask for a safety to play the run any better than he does, to come bearing down on a receiver after a catch like he does. He is an excellent athlete, and he uses every bit of that athleticism to be a missile on the field, just going after guys. Love Billy Bowman. Opposite him, there are, I think, probably 4 guys who might be getting some playing time. Let's discuss them individually. I think that's the best way to do it. And look, man, we got to start with Peyton Bowen. He's a line cutter, and he may very well start this season. He's going to start this conversation off. The freshman is 6 foot, 200 pounds, and plays like he has played football every second of every day for his entire life. He has an innate understanding of what's happening on the field. He's got the physical gifts to keep up with any receiver that's running deep on him, that's trying to break coverage on him. Keep the spring ball interception in mind, the way he ran step for step with Andrell Anthony, who's supposed to be a speedster on the team. And that was 2 months into the system, 3 weeks into padded practice, 4 weeks into padded practice. The guy has next level ability to just play the game of football. That's why you see him getting practice time at safety. You see him getting practice time at cheetah. Brent Venables wants him all over the field. And I know that we're going to see at least some of that time in that back safety position. Matt, any thoughts on Peyton Bowen specifically?
I'm so happy, man, when his whole thing went to us, and obviously we know the whole debacle, the whole story. We don't need to go into that, but if you do want to hear more, go check out Parker Thune's interview when we talked more in depth about it. But there's a reason why you go get these guys. They are truly special and ready to make that leap from high school to college football immediately. There's not a whole lot more this guy needs other than just getting bigger, faster, and stronger. But that's why we got Smitty. So having an off season, having this guy in here, learn the system, and really play with another special talent and Billy Bowman, that's a lot. Those 2 guys are going to be a tandem that is going to absolutely wreck some opposing Big 12 wide receivers and keep a good deterrence for these quarterbacks to throw these guys' ways, because you saw it in the spring game. Peyton Bowen was all over the field in tandem with Billy Bowman. So you really love to see this combo working together on OU secondary. Just haven't seen a duo like this in a long time. So super excited for both of these guys to be on the same side of the football and playing together.
Matt, I'll take you a step farther. I don't know if we've ever seen a duo quite like Bowman and Bowen. That's going to trip us so many people up. Matt, I know you struggle with that a little bit already. Peyton Bowen might have the best ball skills on the team, like, period. He's been talked about for returner. Obviously, you get the ball in his hands, he does magic with it. We saw it already in the spring game. What I love about Bowen is he's got the speed to catch up. He's got the nose for the football. I am not concerned with him making a leap of sorts into the Big 12. There will be some freshman setbacks, as there should be. That's something we got to stomach and gotta just live with. But he's a guy I don't want to see him come off the field, because every second he's out there is more experience. And for a guy like him, every second is him getting better. I am so excited about Peyton Bowen. Could not be more ready to see him in the position. And that's what I want. That's why I said I don't want to see the older guys. I want to see him specifically. And I think we can all agree that that's probably something we'd be really okay with if he trotted out there first.
I think he's going to be the defensive freshman of the year in the Big 12. I think that is what's going to happen. Maybe he doesn't get the snaps early on, but by midseason, even by the Texas game, he is going to be a heavy contributor to this defense, I believe. Moving on to maybe the exception to your rule about the young guys, Ryan. I'd be good with seeing Reggie Pearson play a little bit of ball. I think that what we saw from him last season as a Texas Tech player, he played 2 years in Lubbock. Before that, played a season in Wisconsin, then sat out a COVID year before going to Lubbock, yada, yada. He's in Norman now, wanted to play with the best of the best. Most of the OU fans probably know him best for the hit in the Tech game in the final game of the regular season, where he just destroyed Dylan Gabriel on the trick play pass that shouldn't have been called. That kind of tackling, that kind of hard hitting ability is what you can come to expect from Reggie Pearson as a member of the defensive backfield of the secondary, with Reggie Pearson in there. I think that Brent Venables saw the weaknesses of this room last season and knew that while you can go and recruit a guy like Peyton Bowen, you also need to have someone who's been there, done that at 2 high-level programs and can show sort of what hard work looks like, sort of what a veteran looks like, and a guy who's been around the block a few times, so that someone like Peyton Bowen, Robert Spears-Jennings can see how it's done. Matt, any thoughts on Reggie Pearson?
Great addition. Absolutely was elated when he ended up transferring. 5'10", almost 200 pounds, started 34 out of his 41 games at Texas Tech, registered over 170 tackles, couple interceptions, couple forced fumbles. This is the kind of experience you want. It is a huge upgrade from the secondary that we saw last year. This was really a must get to add to Billy Bowman, who can hopefully will continue to be healthy, and then bring the addition of Peyton Bowen into the backfield as well. These 3 guys are, I mean, if you just take these 3 guys versus the 3 guys last year, I don't think Sooner fans couldn't be more excited about this upcoming season and those 3 guys themselves.
Totally agree. Ryan, anything to add on that?
I love the pickup. I really do. It adds a physicality. What surprises me is you see that 5'10", 198, and it almost surprises you. I don't know if it's just me, but he feels like he plays bigger than that. He really does. I love him for kind of situational, especially if it's to protect against run or something, inside the red zone situations. He is going to scream downhill. He does like to hit. He has a different skill set than I think we can say Bowen does. And that's good. I love versatility. Let's switch guys out every now and then. He is an older guy. You are forcing me to eat some crow right now, because I'd be fine seeing him trot out there. But I'd still like to see Bowen, but I do love Pearson, and he could fit in very, very nicely for many different opponents. I don't know how well against Texas that'll look like, but against an Iowa State or even Kansas State, I think he could come in. He could be a very solid piece to help the defense in that matchup.
Yeah. Kind of a matchup dependent sort of player. And when you have as many guys who we think can play, that makes sense to silo guys like that. One guy who sort of does prove your rule as far as older guys we might not want to see too much It's the last of the 2021 Tennessee Volunteers that joined Oklahoma that glorious summer. Key Lawrence. Ryan, what do you think about seeing Key Lawrence on the field in 2023?
I'd rather see others. I think we've seen enough. I think we've seen enough.
Diplomatically said.
I think we've seen enough Key Lawrence to know that the guys behind him might be better. And look, the Key Lawrence, fine player. He's going to suffer a little bit from just dudes now in the room. We had to go out there and get more guys. We had to go get Pearson because Key Lawrence wasn't going to be someone we could rely on with younger guys behind. And that says all you need to know. I think he's a fine player. We will look fondly on him as we move and continue to go forward. A good Sooner for us. He came over. I don't think anyone's really complaining about him taking a more backseat role. But yeah, sometimes things like this should happen. We should have this problem where you're the older statesman. You played for us last year. You played for us in the past, but sorry, you're going to have to take a backseat. That's a good thing. That's recruiting. Yes. That's good.
The talent level up is something that, because there's only really 4 or 5 guys here that we're thinking about, you can see it in real time. You can see Key Lawrence is on his way out, and we're going to bring in Reggie Pearson, but we're also going to have Peyton Bowen rising. We're going to have this next guy, Robert Spears Jennings, rising. At 6'1", 218, he's the second heaviest of all of the defensive backs on the roster, only behind Jaden Rowe, who we mentioned earlier, and seems like someone who, if none of those guys are able to fully take the mantle, I mean, you expect Billy Bowman, right? And you expect Peyton Bowen to carve out some kind of role. But if neither of the elder statesmen, if neither of the seniors can carve something out, Robert Spears Jennings seems uniquely positioned to replace them on the field. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a reason why the transfer portal was so vital those first couple of years. And if you think the 3 guys that came in, Wanya Morris, Eric Gray, and Key Lawrence, I think the Key Lawrence is probably, again, there's a lot of hype around these guys. And I think obviously Eric Gray was the best out of the 3. And I think Key filled into a spot that was needed at the time, but there's too much talent, too much good recruiting that's been done. I think if you see Key Lawrence out there, then there's a problem with some of the development with some of the younger guys, because his time has come. We see his inconsistencies. He might be situational football. It's good to have that kind of experience and leadership in that room. And obviously depth is always a good thing. You're never going to complain about depth because injuries do happen. But if you see him on the field quite a bit, I think there's a problem that's brewing with some of the younger guys.
I don't know if it's necessarily a problem. It's definitely a great guy to fall back on if it's injuries that are forcing maybe Bowen off the field or Pearson off the field. I like Robert Spears Jennings. I really do.
Yeah.
We are like we just talked about, and we should give credit. Brandon Hall's done a great job. A great job recruiting, and he's caused a fun problem that's not fun for Robert Spears Jennings. Are you maybe the odd man out? I have no problem seeing him, on the field. I feel comfortable with him out there. I think he feels comfortable. It's just he doesn't add as much as some of the other guys, and that's nothing against Robert Spears Jennings. That's just the room, and that's the game that recruiting is supposed to play. So I think he's a very good piece. We talked about some of the O-linemen maybe moving on. I see Robert Spears Jennings being a very good pickup for somebody in the Big 12 next year, because he deserves to play. He's a good player. You just got too much behind you, and we'll see what happens. But I feel good about Robert Spears Jennings if he has to play.
Interesting, because I also feel good about him playing if he needs to. And I also think you look at a guy like Reggie Pearson. He's only here for 1 more year, like in this season, right? Mm-hmm. Key Lawrence is probably only here for this season. I think he has 1 more year of eligibility if he needs it, but looking at the recruiting, as you're saying, he might get processed. You never know how that's going to end up playing out for some younger guys that they just need roster slots for. So I actually think that RSJ could be someone who by the end of the year, we're saying, okay, he's competing for the starting role opposite Billy Bowman and Peyton Bowen. Like he's a rotation guy. Peyton Bowen might run down to Cheetah at times, and in that time you bring in Robert Spears Jennings. I don't think that that's unbelievable at all to think that he's in the rotation pretty heavily. Matt, you're making a face. Do you think that I'm talking crazy here?
No, not at all. Sorry, I just got a little itch in my eye. All I'll say is it was a carousel last year. It's going to be a carousel this year, especially with all the young talent that's coming in. So don't be surprised if multiple guys get different starts at different positions. This is just BV figuring out which set of guys is going to work best for his really complex defense that he's going to be running. So expect I'm hoping a lot of these guys are going to see a lot of playing time in the few first 3 to 4 weeks to really solidify some of those positions. Because again, you're going to see quite a few different people playing cheetah, nickelback, corner. It's going to be quite an array of guys that are going to be playing in that defensive secondary positions for us this year.
But if I may, at the same time, it feels like there are pieces who could claim those spots and not leave the field.
Sure.
So I'm with you.
For.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So.
It is a rotation to start this bad boy, but man, the second Billy Bowman stays healthy, the second Peyton Bowen starts making some plays that, hey, Reggie Pearson's not making, or Robert Spears Jennings, you're not busting up that throw. It feels like, why take Peyton Bowen off the field? And that's a fun problem to have. But I'm with you. Rotation for sure. Let's figure out pieces. I love it.
Well, and to some degree, you don't want anyone playing every single snap of every single game. You want to be able to send in, all right, let's get Bowen a rest. Let's get 2 plays off over here. They're running it down our throats. Let's get some fresh blood out there. You want to be able to trust the fresh blood that you have to send out there. The problem really struck us more at the linebacker position last year, but we could never take Danny Stutzman off the field. We could never take David Igwebu off the field. You just couldn't do it. At the safety position this year, we've got 3 or 4 distinct guys behind the 2 guys that end up starting that you could end up seeing. And at the corner position, probably even more than that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's you see there's the term, grabbing the brass ring. It feels like there's plenty of guys who are trying to grab the brass ring, and we just got to get through the rotation a little bit, see who's the ones you throw out there first. And then, if you're second man in, you're just as viable to try to take that top spot or fall back to the third spot. I mean, we've been told all about the depth. You couldn't be happier about what the depth looks like right now and how competitive it looks. And that's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
A term BV likes to use, competitive depth, something that we didn't have last season. I think your real hope is that the defensive line's better, the linebacker solidified, which just makes the secondary cornerback position that much easier. The other issue you face is OU is still going to run a fast-paced offense, which is probably going to leave your defense on the field majority of the time. But we were also plagued last year being one of the worst teams on giving up third down conversions. So you're hoping the overall defense improves so these guys don't have to play as much. But it's going to be hard because we also run just such a fast-paced offense, and our time of possession is always going to be a lot lower than our opponents. So these guys are going to have to get on the field, and they're probably going to see it often.
Matt, you're absolutely correct on that. You also hope that maybe the offense decides to help the defense get some rest every now and then, so you don't have to rotate as much. But do what's working, and no one's going to be mad at you.
Yeah, win football games, and it doesn't matter how it happens. We're going to be pretty pleased. So some of the last guys that we have on the list that I want to make sure we can run through, freshman Day McCullough. If he's not on campus, we probably don't have future starting linebacker Cheetah something Desan McCullough on the team. Not much out of Day as far as playing time we think coming out of fall camp, but you never know. You never know who breaks through. I think Eric McCarty is a freshman from McAllister High School. He played all over the field at McAllister, offense, defense, return game, everything. Another Jacoby Johnson kind of situation where the superstar player plays all over the field. He's someone that I think has a lot of potential long-term maybe you look up and the pipeline has dried up a little bit at safety. We have a down year recruiting. Eric McCarty could be a starter as like a junior down the line. That's sort of what I think the future could look like for him. Any thoughts on those two? Because I feel like those two have a unique, like they're both things. And then the rest of these guys are sort of kind of names, if I'm being honest.
They feel safety blanket-ish, but both those guys specifically, you do love their body of work. You love that they are, supreme athletes. Need to spend a little bit of time with Schmitty. They're a little on the lighter side. The frame is there, you like their height, but McCullough could put on a little bit of weight. He's only at 178, 6'1" frame. Let's bump him up 15 pounds, and I feel like we'd all be bigger. Matt's saying more. Matt's saying a lot more. All right,
200, 20
okay.
pounds. Might not be possible, but come on.
I mean, as long as you're not sacrificing that speed, because we know he's got it. I think we're all going to be fine there. But again, it's what you want in your room. Emergency guys you're comfortable with rolling out there if you need them. And you're right, Eric McCarty, if you gotta jump out there because it's your time to shine as a guy in your junior year halfway through the season, we're all okay with that. We're all good with that.
He's gotten the reps by then.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the same as throwing him out there now. It's seeing that there's some potential there and hoping that he's able to reach that potential. After those two guys, we're looking at Case and Kalmus, which is a name that we're all going to recognize, but is someone that I don't think is going to play very much, just to be honest.
Rocky. Adrian.
Past that, we've got freshman Cale Fugate, Jacob Snyder. Those are two local Oklahoma guys, very good at their local high schools, wherever they played. Glad that they're on the team. That's good recruiting. And freshman Emmett Jones III, which is the funniest thing in the room. Yeah. So, son of our wonderful wide receivers coach, I'd give him a scholarship too. So it doesn't bother me, but it is very funny. Lastly, there's three more guys: Pierce Hudgens, redshirt junior; Gabriel McDonald, redshirt junior; Peter Shaw, redshirt freshman. I'm sure they're great guys in practice. I'm sure everyone likes all of these guys. Do you all have any thoughts on any of those names that I just threw out there?
If I may, Matt, real fast, Mark, to your point, Schneider and I'll say Fugate. I'm apologize if I'm butchering that. Both from Bixby. Good to keep the relationship up. Great job, keeping a program like Bixby, keep them happy, keep guys thinking about OU there. I think that's that's kind of what their purpose might be, and that's fine. I totally love that. Emmett Jones III. I love it. I was not aware that his son played defensive back, and that's got to be a little fun on the practice field every now and then. But best of luck to him. When have we ever complained about a coach's son? When have we ever had an issue with a coach's kid out there? Really, I don't see a problem with that. But then the rest of them, you're right. I was not prepared to see how many young guys there were. I ran the numbers, boys. I'm not counting red shirt, so I'll just kind of go with what they are. Red shirt, senior, I equated as a senior. But 4 senior or higher, 4 juniors or red shirt juniors, 4 sophomores or redshirt sophomores, 12 freshmen, true freshmen or redshirt freshmen, 12. That was surprising. This is a young room. We knew they were building to something. I didn't realize that it would be like this.
But that's why you bring in Reggie Pearson to
exactly
counterweight it.
Yes, great pickup there. Does it surprise anybody that we kind of went straight, just, okay, sorry, sophomores, we're just going to go focus on freshmen? Like, I was shocked. Only 4 sophomores? Man, we're looking young. That's not a problem in my eyes. I don't know how y'all feel. I love seeing how young it is.
Well, you got to think like some of the sophomores are also in that redshirt freshman group. They didn't hit playing time levels. So there's some stuff there that's probably a little bit noisy on the numbers, but we knew that it would start to be a younger group. There would be a talent flip, a talent turnover coming down the pipeline once this group got in and was able to establish the relationships they needed to get guys to Norman. That's why you're starting to see the Peyton Bowens choose Oklahoma, where previously there's no way that guy's coming. The last 5-star that Oklahoma had was Buki, and we butchered him. We butchered the career. Like, that's just true. Guy went undrafted after playing sort of defensive back for Oklahoma. Once the Venables coaching staff was able to get in, we've seen the changes that they've made in the defensive backfield. The room's much more talented. It just quite simply is. You go back to the beginning of Jaden Davis, a guy who started last season for us at corner. He left because he looked around and said, I know I'm not going to play. They might not even have to tell a guy like that, because he looks around and sees the kind of athletes that are on the field. Matt, those are kind of my closing thoughts. Do you have anything you would like to get off of your chest about the 2023 Oklahoma Sooner defensive backs before we go?
Yeah, like I said a few moments ago, I think the overall defense is going to be better, especially up front, the front seven. So I think that's only going to make the DBs and safety jobs easier. But again, there's been a huge increase in talent, and with the transfers coming in, the freshman recruiting, as well as having Billy Bowman healthy, which is huge. Without him, like Hile said, just looks like the defense is falling a little bit apart back there in the secondary. So super excited about this group of guys. Super excited to see some of these guys like Makari Vickers, Joshua Wagner. Sorry, think of his last name. Really come into fruition and make that leap. Really excited for this group and the rotations that we see.
Ryan, any parting thoughts before we get on out of here?
You really hope for the health of Woody Washington and Billy Bowman, but you do feel comfortable with the pieces that will be, like we said, rotation basis until some things solidify. We couldn't say that for a while, a couple of years, if not more. We really felt like, last year, if Billy Bowman was on the field, it didn't look good. This year, Billy Bowman, knock on wood, he's on the field all the time. Let's say he comes off for a breather, you feel pretty good about Peyton Bowen and Reggie Pearson or Jennings and Pearson. It's nice combinations, and same thing goes for the cornerback spots. Young talent, love to see it, and especially the size. I love to see the size of these guys. Big difference from Mark's favorite topic, Speed D.
They went the other direction with that group. They did. That's what they did. I was watching the USC game yesterday, just so everyone knows when we're recording, and they've got a defensive end at 230 pounds. What are you doing there? What are you doing there, guys? So that's not really to the point of this podcast, but oh my goodness, man. It's just the same thing. It's Groundhog Day over there. And that'll do it for the Program Guys Positional Preview Podcast for defensive backs for the 2023 Oklahoma Sooners football season. Thank you so much to my guests, Matt Gann at Matt_Gann 44. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Follow me on X.
There you go, on X. And Ryan at Ryan_Hile on Twitter, and at Scuba Dooba Doo on Twitch and YouTube and the places where you can see his awesome Scooby-Doo with a water background. Anywhere else?
No, that's it. Yeah, scuba diving Scooby-Doo. You see him, it's got to be me.
I love it. And beyond all that, guys, you can always find Program Guys content at programguys.com. There's going to be a written portion adding to what we've talked about today. Please go hit that, flag it, subscribe, bookmark it, whatever you need to do to make sure you're seeing that content when it comes your way. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify. Do it in both places. It helps us if you do it in both places. Go and follow us.
So free.
And it's free. It's free, baby. All of our stuff is going to be free. Go to Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of the social medias. It's Program Guys with a Z. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Mark Hall, joined by Matt Gann, Ryan Hile for the 2023 Program Guys Positional Preview Podcast. Matt Gann, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.